Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is David Eby. I'm the Premier of British Columbia. Glad to be here with you. We're just wrapping up our visit to Ottawa with a number of ministers and with the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, advancing the interests of British Columbians on key issues like the affordability of housing, like building a strong and clean economy, and the infrastructure that our province needs to be successful, as well as addressing issues of public safety in our province that have become certainly of concern nationally in other provinces as well. I can say that on some of the files that we were here to discuss, we've made very good progress. I am particularly happy with our discussions with Minister Champagne about economic proposals from clean economy companies in British Columbia looking to expand, and how the federal government and our government can work together in supporting the biotech sector, the clean energy sector, and others. It was a very successful set of meetings. On housing, I am, on the one hand, very glad to hear from the federal government that they're willing to work with us on coordinating our programs, federal programs and provincial programs in BC. In BC, we think we're on the leading edge of addressing the housing crisis with some of the initiatives and developments that we're putting forward, and we're looking for a strong federal partner to work with us. While I'm glad for the commitment to cooperation and bilateral opportunities for us to get together and make sure that we're delivering more affordability on each project that we fund, I note that in our meetings, it's pretty clear that the federal government's not yet in a position to be able to share with us what their plan is for their renewed housing strategy coming out of their caucus meeting recently. I look forward to them developing those plans and in particular, how those plans and those initiatives are going to work with initiatives that we're delivering in British Columbia for British Columbians. We're not going to wait, but it's pretty clear to me that we'll be able to deliver a lot more affordability, a lot more housing if we're working together, local government, provincial government, and federal government. So I look forward to advancing that work as well. Happy to open it up now to questions from the floor.
Thank you for joining us. For the members of the media on the phone line, please press *1 to enter the queue. All members of the media will be limited to one question and one follow-up. We're going to begin today with Rob Shaw from Check News. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, hi, Premier. Just on housing, your minister mentioned wanting the feds to pitch in on infrastructure, sewer, roads, things that would unlock housing. Did you get anywhere on that argument?
Well, the federal government has recognized the connection between housing and essential infrastructure and the capacity of cities to take on that additional housing. That's why we were so glad to hear a while ago their announcement about the municipal accelerator funding. This is funding for cities to be able to take on more housing that we desperately need in BC, because we added 250,000 people in the last 2 years to our province, and we need a lot more housing for them. My understanding is the federal government is close to being able to make announcements in terms of the allocation of that funding to support growth in cities, which is very good news. The challenge, or the opportunity, I guess, is to coordinate that municipal accelerator program with the cities that our housing minister has been working with on housing targets. We're asking cities to meet the housing needs studies that they've done to deliver the housing that we all know that they need to deliver to meet the demands of their community. And for the federal government to come in with us and help deliver that in a coordinated way will allow us to increase the impact that we have quite dramatically, because we're working together. And so that was our pitch to the federal government. Certainly they were receptive to that. Beyond that, there are critical infrastructure needs across BC, including in communities like Prince Rupert, where the pipes are under serious threat. We need a federal partner to fix those pipes, and in other communities as well, issues around transit, infrastructure like the Massey Tunnel to address traffic congestion, and more. And we're hopeful in the fall economic statement we see some commitment around some of those infrastructure projects.
And Rob, do you have a follow-up question?
Sure. So I guess that kind of leads to my other question, which was your transportation minister's there. Did he get any commitment from the government on BC Ferries electrification funding? Did he get anything on participating in the Massey project or anything there?
We specifically raised the Massey project Highway 1 is a critical trade corridor and associated transit through the Fraser Valley and other key infrastructure projects across the province related to transportation. The federal government was receptive to those discussions and indicated that they were currently looking at infrastructure funding opportunities and that we should keep our eyes peeled for the fall economic update, which we certainly will. But those conversations were materially advanced during the meetings. And I don't know if, Rob, you have anything you want to add?
Thank you. Yeah, the issue around the Massey Tunnel is a longstanding issue. We shared our business case with the federal government about 30 months ago, and we've had really good commitments from ministers who've had responsibility for that file. And of course, the Prime Minister has stated on the record his interest in supporting the project. So as the Premier said, we're eagerly awaiting the fall economic updates, and Budget 2024 will be an additional opportunity. On ferries electrification, we did stress that the federal government could play a role in helping with shore power. We have 4, soon to be 6, hybrid electric ferries that to become fully electric need shore power. And of course, the federal government has helped both the cruise ship sector and the marine sector more generally in Canada in previous years to electrify. And this is important on the federal government's climate commitments and aligns with our plans in BC. So it was a good discussion.
Our next question, we're going to go to Katie DeRosa from the Vancouver Sun. Go ahead, Katie.
Hi, Premier. On basically, you're releasing the housing targets today, but many mayors are saying that they can't meet these housing targets without the associated infrastructure funding, and they want to know, are they going to be guaranteed that funding if they meet these targets? But I guess what you're saying is that you're not getting a commitment from Ottawa. So how does that leave mayors feeling when they are expected to meet these targets, but they don't know where the infrastructure funding is going to come from to meet the growing communities?
Well, the challenge with housing that we face is we really need to bring on a lot of housing a lot faster. And within municipalities, within the provincial government, permit processing times, the length of time that it takes to approve the most basic housing development, completely unacceptable. And I don't point at cities without pointing fingers at the provincial government at us as well. We've taken dramatic steps to reduce wait times for our housing permits, and very grateful to all the ministers and their teams that have worked together to reduce those times around water permits, around highways permits, and other permits that are required for housing from the provincial government level. And we need the cities to do the same thing. We're going to give them the legislative tools. We've already given them some. We'll give them more this session. I announced $61 million during UBCM to support them with the staffing side, to be able to respond to the pressures that we're putting on them to approve more housing faster to meet our rapidly growing population. We gave them $1 billion last year for critical infrastructure for our Growing Communities Fund, to make sure these are livable communities with playgrounds, with parks, with sports fields, to make life exciting in communities that are growing really quickly. And we need them to get the housing built. We will work with them to deliver these housing targets. We're not going to announce the target and just leave them to their own devices. We're going to work with them every step of the way. If they're struggling to meet those targets, we'll identify why and we'll address it. But to start on day one, to say that we're not able to hit those targets because X is not going to be an answer. We're going to work together. We're going to get through it. And we'll have the federal government at the table as well with their infrastructure dollars, because it's going to take all of us together to make this happen. And I can say the vast majority of cities are there. The vast majority of cities are ready to go. And I'm very grateful to those that are taking on this additional responsibility, and we'll be there to support them.
And Katie, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, the Washington Post today released a detailed account of some of the video footage of the killing of the Sikh leader Nijar, and saying that this is information the police have not yet released. But when you were speaking with the Prime Minister, were you able to get more details than you had last week, following your concerns that you felt the BC was given the basis, the most limited amount of information? Have you gotten more information, and what does that information suggest?
Well, I've underlined in my meetings with the public safety minister, the prime minister, the concern that British Columbians are feeling right now. And it's not just in the South Asian community, the Indian diaspora, people who live in our province. It's also people who have roots in Iran, or people who have roots in China, or who have roots in the Ukraine or Russia, who are concerned about speaking out about governments in a way that they used to feel safe doing, but following the allegations regarding the murder in Surrey, feel significant anxiety about speaking out about issues that they have every right to speak about in British Columbia. The Prime Minister understands that anxiety. In my meetings, I expressed to him and to the Public Safety Minister the importance of British Columbia getting proactive information about concerns, threats from the intelligence community so that we can act, so we can put in place provincial responses to address these issues faster. I have still only had what are described as open source briefings on this incident, which is basically what you read in the newspaper. But I've had assurances from the Public Safety Minister, from the Prime Minister, that they understand my concern about the lack of information sharing, that the restriction lies in the CSIS Act that restricts them to only providing information to the federal government, that they're going to address this issue, and by doing so, be able to share this information more proactively with provinces. I welcome that. I think it's overdue, and I really encourage them to accelerate that work. I also want to say that I don't want any information that will compromise the necessary criminal investigation here. The priority should be finding those responsible, bringing them to justice, and whatever information can be shared with provinces without compromising that criminal investigation should be.
Our next question will come from Richard Zussman from Global News. Go ahead, Richard.
Premier, new poll out today from Research Co. showing a significant trend in terms of the rise of the Conservative Party of BC. Your favorability numbers down a little bit. Is there anything that stands out to you in terms of these trend lines we're seeing in terms of what the electorate is thinking here in BC?
Well, Richard, you know, the priority for our government will be and will continue to be delivering for British Columbians on their priorities. And we know what they are: issues of affordability, cost of housing, issues around public safety and community, issues around building a clean economy for British Columbians, issues around healthcare. And that is the measure by which I'm judging the success of our government, that we are showing progress on these key issues for British Columbians. I will say that I am very distressed by the race to the bottom among the right-wing parties in our province, the BCUP and the Conservative Party, trying to find ways to divide British Columbians and import American-style culture wars into our province. I think that the culture wars have served the United States very poorly. I think the division between people there is not something we want in British Columbia. And we should all be making an effort to bring British Columbians together, even if we disagree on key matters of policy: how to respond to the housing crisis, how to respond to healthcare. Should it be public? Should it be private? Let's have those debates. Let's not find the ground of our elections in picking on small, marginalized communities, driving people apart. I think that the polls reflect the distaste that British Columbians have for that approach, frankly.
And Richard, do you have a follow-up question?
No, I'm good. Thanks for your answer.
Our next question will come from Lisa Yuzda from City News. Go ahead, Lisa.
Just one question, Premier. Just walking away from these meetings, what was the greatest success and what are you leaving with your greatest frustration?
I think the greatest success of these meetings is continually advancing our relationship with the federal government to the point that now, when we sit across the table, we're able to speak quite frankly and openly and really advance files. And the specific file that I think we advanced the most in these discussions in the meetings that I was in was on the economic front. I think we'll be able to have some very positive announcements for British Columbians for our clean economy moving forward with the federal government in the next few months, flowing from our discussions here, which is very good news. The biggest challenge remains the issue of housing and how we're going to really push the envelope to the next level, how we're going to get to that next level of ensuring and setting those models in place that can be replicated across Canada, for example, using public land or Indigenous partnerships to deliver more affordable, more attainable housing for people who frankly earn a decent income but are struggling to find a place to live. We need new models and we need a strong federal government presence there. And I think that's the area where we didn't make as much progress as I'd hoped, but I still am hopeful that we'll be able to get there.
Lisa, did you have a follow-up question? Not hearing from Lisa. Going to go on to Rob Buffum from CTV News. Go ahead, Rob.
Oh, hi, Premier. I guess my first question relates to those federal lands. I'm just wondering, back in February, you pressed the Prime Minister for use of things like CFB Esquimalt or parks, federal parkland. Is there any concrete information you have on that? And I'm also wondering if you have any information in terms of the 10 communities that we're going to hear those targets today. How many of those communities have succeeded in getting a federal accelerator grant at this point?
Just your second question first. I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you that we need to have it be 100% of the communities that are in our housing target initiative need to be participating in the federal accelerator program, and that's what we're working to with the federal government. In terms of the use of public land for housing and initiatives with the federal government, my understanding is the federal government is materially advancing their inventory of federal lands for the purposes of being able to identify places where housing could potentially be built. I reinforced again my call for the federal government to look at military bases where they're a major employer as a huge opportunity to build housing, to take pressure off housing in the community and also support their employees directly. And the Esquimalt military base, I raised it again, as well as ports. The port in Prince Rupert is hiring like crazy. They're very busy and a successful port driving the economy in Prince Rupert. It is a hard place to build in Prince Rupert with the nature of the soil and the peat there. And local developers are not in a place to be able to deliver the kind of housing the port needs. And so I talked to the federal government about, well, maybe you could relieve the port from the prohibition on being involved in housing and allow the port to build workforce housing for the people and the families who support and keep that port running in Prince Rupert. It would be a great service to Prince Rupert. It would assist the port's development. So we raised those kinds of opportunities again, and I was glad to hear that the federal government was working on that inventory of federal lands. The work is moving slowly. We're encouraging them to move faster and to join us in the BC Builds initiative about where we're identifying these lands for development.
And Rob, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, kind of circling back to these municipalities who say it's not going to be possible to achieve the goals that will be set for them, or they have concerns that some of the factors will be out of their control, like headwinds like inflation or labor shortages. So 5 years from now, despite their best efforts, they may not be able to achieve these goals, and also say that they need help right now in terms of funding to streamline the process to come close to hitting those goals. What's your response?
Well, the good news for British Columbians and the good news for these cities is that these cities are getting help right now with the support they need to hit these goals. We announced $61 million to support cities with the team of folks that they need at their level to be able to respond to the province's call to action to them. It is absolutely vital that we're approaching this in a spirit of cooperation, in a spirit of let's get this done together. The goals, the targets were set in partnership with the cities, sitting down with them. What's realistic? What can we actually deliver? Nobody wants failure here. Everybody wants success. And we're going to keep pushing in that direction. We're going to support each other to get this done because we all we need the cities to hit these targets. Otherwise, British Columbians are still going to struggle to find rental housing. They're still going to struggle to find a place with bedrooms for their family. They're still going to find a struggle to get into the housing market. And so we need to be successful here. And I know local government officials understand that. And I know the federal government understands that. And the province will show the leadership to get there.
Our next question will come from Brianna Charlebois from the Canadian Press. Go ahead, Brianna.
Great. Thank you so much, Premier. I'm just wondering again, in regards to the info sharing, I know you said you expressed your concerns to the Prime Minister and the Public Safety Minister. I'm just sort of wondering if you could let us know what the reaction was to that and whether any of the lingering questions were answered, particularly in relation to protecting BC residents with connections to India from foreign immigrants.
Okay. The second half of your question I didn't quite catch, but the first half is so when I raised this issue with the Public Safety Minister, with the Prime Minister, both committed to me that they would ensure that British Columbia gets the information we need to protect people, to ensure we can have fair elections, to make sure that communities are safe, particularly communities that may be targeted by foreign governments for influence, and that we're able to address transnational crime like money laundering effectively through information sharing. The mechanisms by which that will happen are not clear yet, because they also advise that they believe the CSIS Act is the thing that's frustrating that information sharing. And they both committed that the work is well advanced in addressing that blockage. I certainly hope that's the case. I look forward to those reforms. And we're taking all the steps we can in partnership with them to get whatever information can be shared despite that block without compromising any criminal investigations so the province can take the actions we need to take to protect British Columbians.
And Brianna, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, so I guess, did any of the lingering questions that you had from last week get answered, I guess, is the main question that I have. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I haven't received any additional information about the murder in Surrey, and I'm other than the information that's already publicly available in fine publications like that are widely available to everybody.
Our next question, our last question for this event, is from Chad Pawson from CBC News. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, Premier Eby, with the Washington Post article, it specifically is critical of policing services, saying there was a spat between RCMP and the Surrey Police Service when they responded to the scene, the Gurdwara where Hardeep Najjar was murdered, and also made reference to local area businesses and residents not being contacted by the police. Can you respond to what seems to be some gaps in the investigation that the Washington Post has uncovered?
In terms of the specifics of the police investigation, as I've outlined, I'm very ill placed to be able to comment on that. I have very limited information, which is restricted to what's in the public realm right now. And I do have confidence in the federal RCMP, given that this is a national security investigation as well as a major crime investigation, to be able to take the steps necessary to preserve evidence and ensure that people are brought to justice. I can say, though, on the matter of municipal policing in Surrey, that it is clearly time for everybody to understand that we are moving to a municipal force in Surrey. That is what is happening. It is happening in order to ensure that the public is protected, that when they call 911, they get a police response, that it is an adequate police response, and that it is proportionate to the level of crime and concern that they face. Any confusion between the RCMP and the Surrey police force should be resolved as quickly as possible, because that is the direction that we are moving. We need everybody moving in this direction. We have advanced discussions with the public safety minister and with the prime minister about the need for them to be clear about what the future of municipal policing is involving the RCMP, because I think that will also assist us in having that discussion with those in Surrey that are reluctant to accept that this is the direction that we're moving.
And Chad, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, thank you. When you sat down with Justin Trudeau, and you have this incredible housing challenge in your own province, like what kind of language do you use with him? How do you ask him for the billions of dollars this province needs to meet its housing needs? What kind of language did you use? How did you ask him for this?
Well, my pitch to the housing minister, to the deputy prime minister, to the prime minister was very consistent. In British Columbia, we have amazing opportunities underway. We're at the leading edge of addressing the housing crisis with innovative models, with new legislation. They will not find a better partner across Canada to tackle this issue. If they want to address the housing issue, if they want to show leadership on the housing issue, what can be done, we're there. Local governments are there. We're ready to go. We have specific projects that are going to go ahead with or without them, but will be so much better and will show the capacity and the ability of governments to work together to address the issues of the day and restore some level of public confidence in the idea of government if we all work together and actually deliver that. I'm really excited about what we're doing in British Columbia. I tried to bring some of that excitement to the Prime Minister, to the Housing Minister, and the Deputy Prime Minister so that they're enthusiastic about being there with us and standing with those First Nations that are doing housing developments that are actually attainable for the middle class in world first level developments, or in using public land like school board land to build housing for teachers, or health authority land to build housing for health workers. It is so exciting what we're doing in BC, and we need to hugely accelerate it and ramp it up, which is why we need the federal government there as well. So that was my pitch to them, bring some excitement around a hard issue. Housing is a wicked problem, but we have some solutions in British Columbia that can give people hope that there's a way out of this. And that is what I hope has landed for them. We really want them to be energized about this file and to take it on full on at the federal level.
Thank you. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much.